Alright, so we've got pronter face running. That's doing pretty good with the temperature. It hasn't exceeded the temp, so it's still doing nicely. It's currently at 220 out of 215, so it's going to drop down a little bit on the tip, and the bed's at 109.9 out of 110. So that's looking awesome. You want to check that from time to time in case it overheats and you need to reset. But that's another thing. So we've got Slic3r. We need to use Slic3r to generate the actual G-code. So I'm going to go to the D drive again. I'm going to hit S. That just gets us to the S section. We're going to open up Slic3r and then slic3r.exe. Click on Run when it asks you. Alright, so you've got Slic3r up and running, and it says drag your objects here, and that's literally what you have to do for the first step. So we're going to find our file, and we saved it as cube.stl. I think this is it. I'm going to drag that guy to there, and if Slic3r is configured properly, which it should be on all these machines, this platform here is literally the size of the build platform that we have, so that should be to scale. You can't change the angle, you can't change the view of this at all. So it's kind of, if you've got a complicated shape, it's just going to show you the rough outer line of where that's gonna be on the platform. Make sure under print settings you have cream cheese selected. Make sure under filament you've got 3mm ABS selected, and under printer you've got cream cheese selected. We're going to modify one or two items. In the print settings option, you've got a bunch of different layers. The most important one that we want is infill. Right now we've got fill density of 1. That's 100%. For most things, if you don't need it to be really structurally sound, 100% infill is unnecessary. I'm going to go for 15%, so 0.15. Fill pattern rectilinear. You can use different options. I've only used rectilinear and honeycomb. Those seem to have worked out really well, so I'm going to stick to those. Kivna wants us to do honeycomb, but I'm worried that that will cause things to explode, so I'm going to ignore that. Skirt and brim. This is just going to do an outer kind of layer just around the edge of your object. That just allows you to make sure that the print is extruding properly and sticking. I think that's really all we're going to mess with. I'll click through each of these so you can get a basic default idea of what each option is. But for the most part, these default options should all stay the same on all the machines, but it's good to double check them. Infill is the one that normally gets switched up regularly. Support material, that's actually a really good one. If you have an object that has any overhangs, say you put the letter T directly on your platform with the bottom part of the T attached, the overhanging T part, that would fall off. So overhang support, generate support material would be an option that would add extra scaffolding, but then it involves extra cleanup. Alright, so those are all the basic options. A million more, but this is just the basics. Got our object, that looks good, position good. We're going to do export G-code. I'm going to save this to the desktop again. File name, cube, file type, G-code, save. If you've got a complicated shape, this could take a few minutes. For a cube, that took a few seconds, and we're good to go. I'm going to click on stop, and our next option is going to be to load this into pronter face.